In this part, we will go over the remaining big subjects in animations. We start with style animation, which we discussed before. We used that to animate the title bar, but we can do pretty much anything a style can do, although some things work better than others. For instance, animating a color works really well, but animating alignment will not, as it only has three hard states. Most of the other animation types have simple methods to implement them, such as animate layout, but the style animation is only accessible via the Animation Manager class. The reason for this is that it's a newer animation type. The older animations predated the Animation Manager and were adapted to work with it. The style animation was created with the Animation Manager, and so it relies on it. This code animates a label UIID to a text field UIID. You will notice we created a generic component animation class and use Animation Manager to set it. These component animations are pretty powerful. You can sequence them and run them in parallel. You can do quite a lot of powerful things with them. The Animation Manager is a late addition to Codename 1. It came after we already had layout animations and a lot of infrastructure in place, so we had to uproot everything and stick it below. This created interesting situations and made the API awkward at some points. The main reason we had to do that is orchestration. The Animation Manager takes care of all the animations within the form from one point in the code. Before we had this, it was really difficult to run an animation without collision. So if an animation was running and a user triggered a button that removed an unrelated component, the animation would crash because the number of components was suddenly different. So the Animation Manager came along and it handles animations but also handles serialization of operations. That means that if you try to remove or add a component while an animation is in progress, this operation will be postponed until the animation completes. You can also tie together component animation objects and effectively create elaborate animations. I would discourage that for most cases, as it can lead to overly complex animations that serve form instead of function. And finally, I'll cover the exact opposite of these high-level animations, the low-level animation infrastructure. Animations, UI timers, and many other features in Codename 1 rely on the animate method of component, which is core to Codename 1, but so few people understand it. When the EDT runs a cycle, we call it a tick, and the EDT aims for up to 60 ticks per second, although the speed varies. With each tick, the form is tasked with handling animations, and it invokes the animate method. If the animate method returns true, the animation will be painted. Notice that animation in this case refers to the animation interface, but all components implement that, so you can use the component instead. Now, this would be very costly if we had to go over every component 60 times per second. So only components that use register animated will receive the animate call. The thing is that while there are registered animations, the EDT cannot truly sleep, but that's probably okay. The real problem is when animate methods return true too often or perform long, complex operations. This can become a serious battery drain that will slowly seep power from the device. So it's very important to deregister unnecessary animations. We try to do it with our components, but my point here is that this is pretty low-level stuff, and you should be very careful when dealing with it, as the performance implications can be significant. All our components use this feature. Text fields use it to blink their cursors. URL images use animations to update the image when we receive an up-to-date image from the server. It's pretty powerful. The clock demo in the kitchen sink uses it too. Let's have a look. Notice we register animated and deregister it based on the need in the initialize and deinitialize callbacks. This triggers a call to animate method. Notice we only refresh the clock once a second. This is important, otherwise excessive repaints could drain the battery. And finally, we draw the animation in the background, callback. Notice that this is pretty low level. These types of animations are designed for graphics, not for components. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this informative.